Published, 17:30 Eastern Standard Time, the 9th of March 2018. Updated, 17:30 Eastern Standard Time, the 9th of March 2018. It is simply not true to say sport and politics do not mix. It is impossible to separate the two when big issues interfere with our often blinkered world. One such instance saw me, as England captain at the 2003 World Cup, at the centre of one of the biggest political crises in English cricket history. It was the most difficult time in my captaincy and my career. It is simply not true to say sport and politics do not mix. It is impossible to separate the two. Our sportsmen were virtually abandoned by our administrators over whether we should play a World Cup game in Zimbabwe with President Robert Mugabe at the height of his powers. I was a boy from Ilford. I wasn't interested in politics but was forced into meetings with politicians, senior policemen and even Interpol when I was asked to make an informed decision on whether it was right to play cricket in Zimbabwe. At one point I almost met Nelson Mandela to talk about the situation. It was extremely difficult for me, but I felt from the outset that with the kudos of captaincy, a bit like Joe Root this winter having to deal with the Ben Stokes situation, came responsibility. I was an ambassador and had to make decisions not just for me but for my country. The team could not bury their heads in the sand. We had to take some growing up hills fast. There was plenty to ponder. A Channel 4 documentary at the time brutally highlighted what was going on in the country. Our government told us they would prefer us not to play but, crucially, they would not force us to pull out. At 2003 World Cup I was at centre of one of the biggest political crises in English cricket history. Then there were the International Cricket Council, concerned only about their tournament, and the England and Wales Cricket Board, worried about their place in the world game. Both wanted us to go. So we were left to decide as a team what we had to do, and that's when it became complicated. It was unfair to expect someone like Jimmy Anderson, who had then just come out of Burnley Cricket Club, to make an informed decision about Mugabe. Jimmy, like all the team, was brilliant and accepted the need to make a decision. Then there was someone like Ronnie Irani, who argued passionately that this was his big chance to win a World Cup and he did not want to jeopardize it by losing points through forfeiting a game. Why couldn't we just fly in, win the game and leave, like Australia planned to do? I will never forget Zimbabwe's Andy Flower and Henry Olonga being smuggled into our hotel in Cape Town, South Africa, were co-hosting the World Cup, and telling us about their black armband protest about the death of democracy in their country. Was that an option for us too, or would we be interfering in the affairs of another country? This was getting very real for us. The period was the most difficult of my captaincy, but with the kudos came responsibility. We sportsmen were virtually abandoned by our administrators over playing in Zimbabwe. Then we had death threats directed at us and our families from an organization called the Sons and Daughters of Zimbabwe. Nobody appeared sure if they should be taken seriously. My gut feeling was that I should not play the game for moral reasons. Even if it cost us qualification for the latter stages of a World Cup that we could win. Our bosses told us the only way we could pull out was for security reasons, because then they would not be breaking staging agreements and would not be liable to huge fines or sanctions. At one point the then ECB chief executive Tim Lamb broke down in tears in front of me, saying we would be putting fellow professionals out of work if we did not go. So, after much toing and froing, we pulled out for what was publicly stated as security concerns, but we were 100% pulling out for moral reasons and should have been allowed to say so. It was a fudge. And we did it as a team, too. If the majority had voted to go, we would have gone, and I would have gone with them as captain. A protest at Lord's before a test between England and Zimbabwe after the decision to pull out, own thing I would not do, and this was why I disagreed with Owen Morgan not going to Bangladesh in 2016, was pull out alone if I was the leader. Even now there is a small part of me that says I was a sportsman and should have fulfilled the fixtures our administrators wanted. I know some members of our team regret that we did, because we could have gone on to challenge for the cup. But about a year after all this happened, I was at home watching News at 10 and a report came on highlighting the plight of 4 lads who had demonstrated against Australia's World Cup match in Zimbabwe. They had been arrested, tortured, raped and had only just been released. Heaven knows what could have happened had England gone. That is why you cannot separate politics and sport. And that is why 15 years on I have no regrets. Sportsmen cannot ignore what is going on in the world, even if it costs them their World Cups. We are not just sports people. We are human beings representing our countries who will be remembered for our actions. We did the right to pull out of that game and I will always be proud of the stand we took. It is easy to close your eyes and just play your game if you're told to. But there is more to it than that. I did the right thing as captain and there is a part of me that will always be proud of the stand we took. As an England cricket team, if the England football team, or anyone else find themselves in a situation like the one we faced, they cannot bury their heads in the sand either.